there's something very energizing about being able to relax and being able to receive energy. So what we did is we received energy. There's something very restorative, there's something revitalizing, and something very, very calm about recovering. So this was kind of a kriya to recover, right? To recover your energy, right? So when you're in the battlefield of life, sometimes it's the greater sort of soldier, we say, is the one who can recover, right? The one who has an ability to recover energy. So a lot of us, we extend energy, 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 right? So much energy that we're sort of, giving out to all these things, and, the family, the career, all these things. And it's really wonderful to know how to recover your energy, to restore, revitalize, and replenish your energy very, very quickly. So this is a way for us to really tap into the parasympathetic nervous system, which you can kind of tell when you're in that. It's kind of, they say yogi can go to sleep within 3 to 9 seconds, so it's like 1, 2, that kind of thing. And that means you have a control over your parasympathetic nervous system, which a lot of us are very much, we don't know how to get into that parasympathetic nervous system. We don't know how to relax. We don't know how to recover. We don't know how to be still. We don't know how to calm, right? Because our energy is so alert, 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 right? In the car, driving, walking to the bus, in the cafe, even at the house, like everything is alert, 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 right? So we're definitely in that sort of wavelength that is very, very sharp, and our words are very sharp, right? And there's a time to be very sharp, but we have to be very impactful. And everything's impactful. The TV is impactful. The radio is impactful. The cars are impactful. The talking on the bus is impactful. We're all trying to make this noise. And it's almost like we're making noises trying to overdo the noises that already are, right? When you see a bus full of kids, everybody's trying to talk all over each other, right? So all these noises are kind of impacting, trying to compete with the other noises, right? So a great sort of yogic strength, and you'll see this even in successful individuals, is to have the ability to calm, right? The ability to calm, because when you're calm, you can have all this noise around you, but you don't need to be the loudest one, but you just have a presence that speaks. So you don't need to talk. You don't need to make a noise. You don't need to create all this impact with your voice, right? Just your presence alone, the calmness of your presence, and the sort of recovered energy and revitalization, renewal that you sort of emit, and your energy speaks. So you can have this sort of communication that you're sending out to the world without it needing to be noisy, right? There's a lot of it's like noisy, like get me, grab me, I need your attention. There's a lot of that, like come to me, I lure you in, I want something, I need something, I'm going to make a noise so I get that something, right? Well, there's something very successful about having this ability to be in the noise, right? Be in the crises and the chaos, or be in, right, all this sort of noise kind of jumping over each other, and to have this sort of ability to, when you speak so clearly, so precisely, so intuitively on time, that that single word or that single phrase or the single sentence has more impact than the sentences upon sentences upon sentences of people talking, and still we don't know what they're saying. Still, we don't know what's going on. There's something really, really magnificent even about yogis who, we could say that they don't know English, right? But they know a couple words in English, but when they say those couple words, you can see that there's a great, great difference. And they say it, so like calm, and yet it's so powerful. It's a lot more powerful than you can say, people just talk, because the difference between a yogi who barely knows English, right, and who speaks a couple words or a couple phrases, and the woman or man who's just talking, is that the yogi actually has the energy reserve to actually mean what they say, right? So it takes energy to mean what you say, right? So we speak about, empowerment, inspiration. Everything we do is we want a bigger energy, and we want to give an impact, on somebody, right? I want something, I need something, argument, whatever it is. We want to have an impact so that we can get something in that, like a boomerang. We send out a boomerang because we want a response, right? Um, but a yogi is different in the way that the energy they've accumulated, right, through their practice of basically being in that parasympathetic nervous system, like very prevalent in their life. Uh, when they speak, even it could be a couple words, but the way that they speak and the energy behind it is believable. It actually brings tremendous meaning and great impact because they mean what they say. Because there's energy in what they say. Right? Have you ever heard people, they talk and it feels like really sharp, or it just doesn't sound right, or it just sounds really noisy, or it just kind of sounds agitating, or what they're saying, it doesn't really sound believable, or doesn't it sounds kind of like hogwash or bullshit, or those people. It's because they don't mean what they say. They don't have the energy to back it up, right? They don't have the energy to back it up, right? So that's the thing about the yogi is like when they speak, it's a few words. It's like, I mean what I say. I have the energy. I mean what I say. I'm credible. I'm believable because I actually had the structure of it in my aura. Not just, I'm just kind of, going on the internet, looking up something and then regurgitating it, right? It's like, no, I have installed it in my aura and I'm just showing you what's in my aura. That's all that I'm doing. I don't need to explain it. Just look in my aura. You can see it is there, right? That's so interesting about those yogis. But a lot of people, like, they talk all day long about the thing they have in their aura. But then when you look in their aura, I don't see it in your aura, right? And that's the great sort of, you don't mean what you say. And you're like, okay, it doesn't feel believable, or it doesn't really, it rubs off on us kind of weird. We're like, this just doesn't feel right. There's something off about what they're saying. There's something off about their noise that they're creating in their mind and their words and their body. Something off about what they're claiming or what they're demanding or what they're impacting. Something's off about it, right? Because it's not actually structure in the aura. It's something you're regurgitating from something you read on the internet or a book or something that you received from somebody else's aura, but you actually did not take the time to actually basically digest it and to install it. And that's the thing about the yogis is they give us these kriyas to basically the yogi supposedly the arc line of the yogi is basically the Sachic record of planet Earth, and that's kind of the arc line of the ascended beings is in the yogi, right, or in the guru, or in the the high one, the high teacher, the old soul, these kinds of things. Basically, and we work to keep it installed. We work to continue to download all these files of the earth and the cosmos, so that when people come in contact with the aura of the guru or the yogi, basically they can get a download, they can get a file, they can get data from the yogi's aura that they can install in themselves, in their psyche, their arc line, and then therefore they can begin to structure their life according to whatever that data or that information has that can help them to better organize their life so they can be more efficient, productive, and get things done quicker and less tiresomely, right? So that's kind of when the yogi speaks, it's like total, like, sometimes the speaking is just so nonchalant, or sometimes it's like very strict, right? Sometimes it's very nonchalant, sometimes very strict, but regardless, there's so much like alluring because you're not allured by the voice, you're allured by the sound current, because the sound current actually shows the truth of that person, right? The sound current basically reveals what's in their aura, because everything in the aura has a frequency. Every file, every information in your Sachic record has a frequency, and all those frequencies kind of intermingle and create a large sort of frequency or vibratory field, and that's your sound current, right? So when we talk about people who have this beautiful speech, this beautiful impact, or their singing, or their a public speak, or just whatever, their artistry, their dance, there's something so captivating, or there's something like, oh, it's not believable, because the sound current reveals what they've actually structured in their aura. So if they hadn't done nothing and they're just kind of just, regurgitating whatever, I don't know, what they read on a book or something, right? They actually haven't really integrated it and practiced it and taught it and actually became really good in craftsmanship with it. It's not gold, right? It's like not pressed into gold. It's not really believable. We can see it in their aura. It's not really there, right? So we go to the guru, we go to the yogi, all over the world, go to these sacred sites because we want to get the download. Because we want to have a pretty prolific arc line. We want to have a pretty prolific Sachic record. Because the more prolific our Sachic record and lucrative and abundant and wise and well-rounded our Sachic record is, the more masterful we can be in many, many areas across the board on planet Earth, right? So in the guru, the yogi, or the ascended being that we talk about, like Yogi Bhajan, for example, Yogi Bhajan, when you meditate upon his face, or his eyes, right? Look into his eyes in the morning, you meditate. Basically what you're doing is you're downloading his massive Sachic record. And Yogi Bhajan is a master of Kundalini Yoga. So basically what you're doing is when you stare into his eyes, you're praying, or you're asking the ascended being realm, can I download files from our Yogi Bhajan's incredible prolific arc line? Because Yogi Bhajan, he had so many kriyas in his arc line that he couldn't get them all out. They burned him out. His adrenals, basically, they were like catched on fire, basically, right? Because he had so much information in his arc line, in his Sachic record, that he was trying to get it all out, and it was like a fire that was going through his tunnel, a fire that was going through his body constant, and the fire was so much that his adrenals kind of, the physical body of the human can only handle so much, right? Even Edgar Casey, who's the same thing as Yogi Bhajan, he had a massive arc line, had a massive Sachic record of so many files, and Edgar Casey, like Yogi Bhajan, would channel all of this information, but again, he as well, his psychically, spiritually, he very much burned out as well. But he got out so much data. Edgar Casey, with his big university of all these readings that he's psychic readings, and Yogi Bhajan too. He has a big sort of university of all of this data and these kriyas and these meditations and these lectures. So prolific. And they're not the only ones. There is, like, we call the master, is like you have a real, like, incredible Sachic record, incredible arc line that, people, like, in your, they can see in your aura that you have much experience, much education, and much study. And that's not, like, we call academic. That's what we call actually going into life and doing the thing. Right, doing the thing in many, many forms, in many, many ways, so that you can be the most, think of it like a soldier, right? The more experience you have, the better you are, the more strategic you are, the more knowledgeable you are, the more you can kind of make good plans, and then better plans, and then real sophisticated plans, and then impenetrable, unbreakable plans, right? And then unstoppable plans. That's kind of like, as a soldier, as a general, as a leader, that's kind of that when you become more masterful at your sort of strategy and your plan and your organization and your application of life. So I wanted to share that with you because we talk about the parasympathetic nervous system and how relaxation really is the place where we receive the download. Right? We don't receive the download when we're alerted and we're in this sharp sort of wavelength. It's really that sort of like ocean wave, right? Where there's a lot of space. When there's a lot of space in us, that's when energy can fill up the space. But when our space is really choppy, it's really sharp, it's really tight, it's really closed, it's really boxed in, where we have all this noise going on around us, inside, outside, there's no space for anything to come in. So the one thing about Yogi Bhajan, even Edgar Casey, is that their arc line was extremely hot with a lot of energy and information, data, but they also had they had a very spacious mind. And that's why they were so masterful, because their mind when you look into Yogi Bhajan, he has this white light about his mind. It's very white, very clean. When you look at Edgar Casey, his mind was very white, it was very clean. So Yogi Bhajan, he spent like his whole sort of life just like scrubbing his mind and scrubbing his mind and scrubbing his mind, so that his mind was just white, like empty, right? Empty, so clean. Every pipeline, every tunnel was just clean. It was just pure clean. So that in that space of the mind, Yogi Bhajan, all that heat of his arc line, his burning sort of arc line, his burning sort of Sachic record could come in. You could come in because there's space available. But our mind, when it's kind of like a sewage, like it's a sewer, well, basically this clean water comes into the mind. The sewage dirties it up, and then it doesn't come out appropriate, or it doesn't. It loses its meaning, right? You say it's like mean what you say, right? Mean what you say, meaning if you're speaking of like pure, like your Edgar Cayce, you're channeling this holy water. Your holy water should not be going through a sewage, right? Because that doesn't mean what you say, right? It's when we talk about, walk the walk, talk the talk type of thing, right? So that's why Yogi Bhajan, he was so credible. Had this, he was very much like integrity and dignity was like his sort of aura, because his mind was so clean. So whatever information came in, it came in clean, clear. It didn't come through a sewage of, mental conflict, mental chatter, all this sort of mental debris, subconscious wasteland stuff. It came in through a really, really clean, white, like tidy, supremely tidy tunnel or pipeline. A real tidy, like super tidy pipeline, right? And that's what these kriyas do. And that's what the parasympathetic nervous system is about. When you can finally relax, the energy can begin to open up. And then when it begins to open up, the space, right? The space allows you to get the idea, right? Because all of us have an Akashic record, and that's where ideas are, and that's where the sort of, right, the great ideas would get from. But it's just a matter of fact, if it's there, it's just a matter of fact of connecting it to here, right? So it's here, but we need to connect it to here, right? We need to actually put it into the mind, put it into the heart, and put it into the ground. And that really takes the reason why, like, we have this beautiful such a record, but we don't know how to, like, bring it in, is because the mind is like a sewage, right, for some of us, right? And then the body is tight, and then the heart is very kind of stoic, right? So therefore it's like, okay, how do I get in? Like, there's no access point. I can't get in the mind, I can't get in the heart, I can't get in the body, so I just want to stay out here. So all of this, we have such a gravity, just kind of stays out here until we actually organize the body, mind, and spirit to be able to open a door for it to come in. It won't come in, it'll just kind of hang out at the door and just wait until you clean your mind, or you get your heart moving, and flush out your body. So I just wanted to talk about that little parasympathetic nervous system and the connecting with the arc line, as well as the Sachic record that we talk about with Edgar Cayce and Yogi Bhajan, who were very, very prolific. Even during Virtue, I mean, even J.K. Rowling, it doesn't even have to be spirituality, it can just be creativity. Individuals who, again, their Sachic record is so rich. And that's even richer than, just the man who, has the dollar. Because the thing about the Sachic record, that sort of richness, is that your talent, you become multi-talented, you become multi-dimensional. So you're not bound, you're not indebted, you're not sort of entrapped in the sort of the game of money. You become quite sort of proactive and productive with the changes of the times, the eras, the ages, and you become quite more so of an innovator in the way that you're multi-talented, so you can kind of move things around and reorganize yourself so that you're never really caught in a money game. You're the inventor of the money game, which is quite interesting. Quite interesting. So for myself, and like, you can kind of tap into your Sachic record, and for myself, tapping into my own Sachic record, again, when you open up, the mind, and vibrate the heart, and you begin to flesh out the body, basically you become very, very sensitive and sensitized, and you become very psychic. And you can really tap into your Sachic record, your library, the data, the information, the files that basically are accessible. Just like when you go into your library, you can check out a book and you can read it and you can bring it back, right? It's very much like that. You can go in, you can read things, you can learn things, um, and you can ask for help. Like you can ask the librarian called your higher self. Like, hey, like I'm looking for a book on this subject. I need help on this subject. Can you show me something that it can help me? And your higher self will lead you to like a past life, a talent, a message, a spirit guide, a soul family member, a memory, an idea, a download that will help you to better understand the subject that you're struggling in this life, which can be like love or family or safety or prosperity, whatever it is. And you can get this sort of message. And you can also decipher it and go deeper through looking at your astrological chart. Because when you look at your astrological chart, you can really sort of see kind of an overview of where you're at evolutionary. In your evolutionary sort of path, you can see where you're at, right? So with your planet Mars, you can see where you're at in your planet Mars. In your planet Venus, you can see where you're at in your planet Venus. And you can see all of that kind of together really represents your sort of orbit in this planetary system. You as a soul, where you're at in the orbit of this planetary system, like a picture. But that picture is like a moving picture. It's not just a sort of set picture, right? And the astrological chart, the natal chart, basically helps you to go into your Sachic record and see kind of where you stand in your evolution, where you stand as just a human being, right? So, for example, like you can look and see your houses, and you can, like, your first house, which represents the Aries, right? The second house represents like the Taurus, right? And you can kind of see, okay, so first house, I have mine in Gemini, so okay, that is about kind of my ego, my identity, like who I am, and what I represent, right? That Gemini, right? So I represent an ability to have a neutral mind, to have a sort of a skill over the mind, right? Then the second house, when we think of Taurus, right, which represents like your self-reliance, right? You take care of yourself, right? If you have that, for example, I think I have my second house in I think it might be Cancer. We'll just say that Cancer. So like taking care of yourself, being self-reliant, being independent, manifesting for yourself is about really working with your unconscious feelings and working through unconscious feelings. So all of this, if you really kind of go in it, you'll really start to see, okay, like where you stand in your past lives and where you're going. And even when you look at your, I call it boxes and triangles. I know that's not the proper terminology, the proper words, but we see boxes or we see triangles as, boxes represents challenge, right? Sort of, it seems challenging energy. A box is very challenging for energy to move in. Well, triangles is very, very fluid for energy to move in. So you can kind of see, okay, there's challenges, right? Or there's these positions that bring about, okay, like great fluid movement, right? And you can look even like at your Pluto, right? Looking at your Pluto. So I have like my Pluto and Scorpio, a part of a generation of Pluto and Scorpio. So that can represent kind of my sort of evolution that's brought me to this moment here and now, which Scorpio is about. I have been through the dark ages, right? I have been through the dark, the dark ages, the darkness, right? In that sort of darkness, I've gained this sense of transformation and liberation, right? So that's kind of what is potentiated me to this life right here and now. So I know how to go through the dark ages, the darkness of my own self, and like come out liberated, right? Or transformed or changed or, sort of revolutionary. So in that Sachik record, you can even just like, journal and just go deeper and just kind of just feel into it. Like for myself, I can, have visions of myself as, my Native American self. I've had many incarnations in many sort of indigenous sort of cultures around the planet, particularly like Hawaiian and Native American, as well as even going up to sort of Canada, right? Even going to Mesoamerica. There's different sort of, tribes that I connect with that are, we associate with like indigenous people, right? And we cannot even, connect. I have such a record of being a part of like a Sirius, which the Sirius sort of star nation, I don't know what that would call it, right? The Sirius star, and being, in this Egyptian culture in past lives, very ancient past lives, right? Very matriarchal past lives, and being a part of a high priestess school, being a part of a matriarchal school where you're initiated and you basically are your own apprentice kind of thing, right? Being a part of a culture that, right, that in many, many cultures we've been a part of, that we've learned and we've studied and we've had danger and, death and rebirth and, all that kind of keeps going on and keep going on, right? We've died. We've reached our death so many times. Millions and millions of times we have died in this physical body. And many millions of times we have been reborn, all for the purpose that we really do want to like have a complete sort of library that we can take with us back to our home planet, right? Our home planet, wherever that is, right? Because Earth is a very unique place, planet-wise. It's a very unique planetary system, and that's why there's all these sort of, interactions with, maybe ETs and all that kind of stuff. A lot of different sort of ETs that come here. It's very, very special because this planet Earth has a genetic code that is very, very rich. Like, we're considered a genetically very rich planet. We might not be, like, very rich when it comes to, like, our sort of technology and sort of our, like, our mind stream or, like, our sort of, spiritual and emotional sort of, like, maturity. We're sort of, like, kind of malnourished in that department, right? We're kind of poor in that department, kind of run down sort of thing in many ways. But when it comes to the genetic code of the human species and other species, we're actually very rich, right? And a lot of ETs are, they like our planet, right? Because we genetically are very rich. We might be poor, like mentally, emotionally, and, have programming and patterns that, are, kind of toxic or a lot of trauma or like, sort of misbehavior going on, right? But genetically, we're very, very rich because we have, our genetic is older than this planet, meaning our genetic code of human species, actually it's older, meaning we say this, Earth is like around, 5 million years or so, right, around that kind of, but our genetic code is maybe like, 8 million, right, so it's older than this actual planetary system. So when this planet was ice, when this planet was fire, we as a human species, our genetic code was existing somewhere, not on planet Earth, but somewhere in the cosmos. So the thing about our genetic code is that it's so rich in the way that there's so much, like there's so many sort of genetic patterning that comes from so many places around this universe. Like genetic pattern from the Sirius, from the the Pleiadians, from the Orions. I mean, I don't even know all the names of the being, the places, right? So our genetic code was basically this sort of container, this cup, and there were so many places, so many planetary systems, right? So many beings basically would put in their genetic code into this cup, and then kind of make a brew, mix it all this genetic information together, and come up with human, right? And then, kind of human is in our time on Earth when we started to, get our independence as a human being, right? Out of the slavery, right? When we started to get our independence as a human being on this planet, what happened is we started to evolve and we started to kind of define ourselves independent from, wherever we come from, right? The Pleiadians or whoever's, like the ruler or the sort of, ascended master, and we're sort of, less kind of thing, right? So that's why this planet Earth is well protected and well guided, and though we live in polarity, so there's a lot of dark agendas that are very mischievous and a lot of misbehavior, and an ethnic code that is sort of in question, right? But that's why we also have the other side. We have the warriors, whereas I'm going to indict you, that kind of attitude. Right, so there's always the balance of the scales on this planet, because there is a cosmic law and there's a cosmic order, right? It's like people who, do whatever they want, free for all. I will indict you, I will rebuke you, right? And there are high ascended beings that will literally come here and make it happen, right? That will bring about the necessary changes to bring back the balance of the scales, because this planet and the human species is very important. And we are reaching a point in our human sort of humanness, right, where, we're reaching the point of our technology again, where we've been in technology for a long time, where we've had technology for, other periods, right, and we're reaching it again, right? I think this is our fifth time of trying to do this technology thing without, losing our heads and, kind of thing, or nuclear bombs type of stuff. We even had technology on Mars, but we've had a nuclear experience on Mars that was detrimental. But again, all of these sort of things I'm telling you, shamans would channel these things. Like shamans, again, like I said, being shamans have the arc line, the akashic record of all the information. A lot of the stories of the shamans and like the tribes where you just kind of, they tell your grandson, or, you tell your family, right, in a little, in a kind of story time, right, setting. And basically the shaman would like tell these real like imaginative stories that were so like extraordinary. And all these stories were basically channels of the shamans would channel history. And the history of this planet is so like, oh my gosh, and the history of this cosmos and other planetary systems is so like, whoa, it's like Star Trek types, or Harry Potter world. Like it's really magical, and kind of dark at times, right? When we think of the little the black people who fly in Harry Potter world, I don't know what they're called, right? Those little black shadow things that try to suck you dry type of thing. That's dark, but it also has great, like, stories of, triumph and victory and kind of thing. And the shaman would basically channel, like, this is what happened on the Sirius planet. This is what happened on Pleiades. This is what happened 2,000 years ago on planet Earth. And people, the tribe would be like, what? But the akashic record of the shaman was the one that basically held the history and the data and the knowledge of this planet and any other planet that has intermingled with Earth. And Earth is so special in the way that we've had so many planets share their genetics with us. Which, when you share your genetics with someone, you're sharing your history with them, right? So when you have a child with someone, you're giving them, right, a piece of you, or they're giving a piece of you genetically. You're sharing each other's ancestors. Your ancestors join together. When you have a child with someone, your ancestors join together because of that child, right? Again, that makes you're connected to that person. And again, right, your genetic code is shared. So when it comes to your evolution as you, like wherever, your ancestors, whatever they've been doing, right? Whatever they've been, whatever they've learned, whatever they've been, up to, that is genetically shared with you, the person that you have a child with, right? Same thing goes with right? When we genetically when other beings like Pleiadians or Orions or Syrians or whatever these ETs, right? When they share their genetics with us, and or we share the genetics with them, we take on their history, right? We take on their sort of what they've been doing in for the past 14, 22, 44 generations, and that's like millions, right? Of that's millions of beings, or people, or humans, right? And all this sort of stories and experiences and knowledge and education, skill and talent, and right, biological, right? And that's what makes Earth so rich genetically, is because our genetic sequence, it has so much history, right? So genetically, we're talking about with, again, all these beings that have interacted with us. Maybe not right now. They don't interact with us right now because, we're a little sketchy, right? Because we're still very, very uncomfortable in our own skin as a human being. We kind of act like we don't want to be human, or we kind of act like we're not comfortable with being human, or we kind of act like we don't like human. We kind of act like that with ourselves and with other people. Like, I'm human. Like, I don't know if I like this. And then we, hate ourselves and like looking at our skin like, why did I become human? Like that, some of us are like that. We're just agitated by the whole human thing, right? So we're not comfortable in our own skin. So why would, beings come and share with us their history, and kind of show us like, hey, like, your genetic and our genetics are kind of been, shared throughout time, and, in your ancient past, you shared some of your genetics with us, right? We, no being would do that when we're like still uncomfortable with our own skin. Because, if we looked at some sort of alien, we'd be like, oh my God, you're so ugly, right? Right? Because that's the way we kind of look at our own skin and our own humanness. Like, oh, this human thing, I'm not sure about this, right? So, and that, again, that's why we're so, so rich, because we've, been here hundreds of thousands of years on this planet. Again, we've had periods of extinction, right? We've had 6 periods of extinction, right? I think we've had like 3 golden ages, and we've we've went through, a great volcano that sort of created all this, flames on the planet. We've been to the Axis, and we've been through the Great Flood, the Ice Age. We've been through continental sort of shifting, major sort of catastrophes on this planet. And we've died, and we've, brutally died, and we came back, right? Hundreds of years later, maybe even thousands of years later, after the planet, rebalanced itself, we came back and we became human again. And then, another period comes, catastrophe, and then we kind of, figure, 1,000 years later, we come back, right? Um, but in that time where we do have these golden ages, like these 3 golden ages, in that time that we do have that, that's the time when we have like real like education on our genetic code, and how our genetic code is very much connected to planetary systems that are not this planetary system, right? That belong to even galaxies. That we have in our genetic code sort of information, data that belongs to galaxies that are outside of our own, right? And in those galaxies, there's, again, planetary systems, like, right? And it's like, whoa, like, right? Our genetic code is very multidimensional, multi-talented, basically very interstellar, in the way that we are basically that kind of that container in which a lot of genetic information just kind of floods into, and it's got so much of it from everywhere just kind of flooding onto this planet, and it's inside of us. Um, so what that means is that, right, when we meditate, or when we have dreams or imagination, when we really do like astral travel, remote view, or just really open up our consciousness, we can actually connect with other planetary systems like we're there, right? Like a lot of ideas like of Nikola Tesla or Da Vinci, a lot of their sort of their manuscripts, I call it manuscripts, when it, have a lot of drawings and sketches of inventions, and sort of blueprints, right? A lot of them were connecting with, it can even be other planets, but it also could have been the future or the past of this planet, which is very, very interesting, right? Or also connecting with spirituality that is not, that's not originated from Earth, but originated from I don't know where, right? And that's really, really exciting. And kind of, people are like, oh, that's really odd, and I don't like that. Because we don't like that because we're not comfortable with our own skin. So if we're not comfortable with our own skin, if we don't even know how to get our own chakras aligned, if we don't even know how to clean our own mind, if we don't even know how to balance our own hormones during pregnancy and after pregnancy, right? If we don't even know how to love ourselves, you bet if we see some sort of Pleiadian come land on our yard, we're gonna be like, get my gun, right? Because that's how we are with ourselves. We look at each other and we're like, Billy, go get my gun. There's somebody walking up. I need my gun, right? And that's just kind of where we're at. So, but I'm going to leave you guys with this information, and thank you, and Sat Nam.